At my wedding reception, my family's tables sat empty. They were 10 blocks away celebrating my sister's baby shower. Then during our first dance, my dad's name lit up my phone, 51 missed calls. One urgent word, and a choice I finally made. There's a moment, just before you walk down the aisle, when you're supposed to feel weightless, like you're floating through joy and nerves, and the kind of nervous happiness that makes your hands tremble even when you know exactly where your future is going. I didn't feel that. I felt wrong. Not because of the wedding, not because of Maya. I loved Maya. I still do. We'd been together for 6 years, and she had stood beside me through every job change, every terrible haircut, every emotional pothole I managed to trip into. I proposed with a second-hand ring, and she said yes before I even finished the question. She was my person. My family, though, had never really been my people, not in the way a family is supposed to be. Let me rewind. My name is Nate. I'm 32, a software consultant by day, and a recreational sandwich snob by night. I grew up in Michigan as the middle child. My older sister Heather had always been the golden child. Cheer captain, valedictorian, engaged in Paris under the Eiffel Tower, the kind of daughter my parents treated like proof they had won at parenting. When she graduated, my parents cried. When I graduated, they asked if I had gotten sunburned during the ceremony. That is not a joke. That is literally the caption under my graduation picture on Facebook. Our tomato boy face with tears of joy. Heather and I were never close. She had a gift for making everything about her, in a way that somehow still impressed people. My mother always said Heather just had presence, that when she walked into a room, you felt her. And she was right. Mostly because Heather announced her arrival like she was opening a stadium tour. Growing up, I got used to being background furniture, not in a bitter way at first, more like I had been cast as a supporting character in a family sitcom I never auditioned for. My younger brother Kyle was the surprise baby, so he got away with everything because he was the last one. That left me as the filler episode. So when I got engaged to Maya and we started planning our wedding, I let myself have one small hope. Maybe this time my family would show up for me. Not in a dramatic way, not in a Heather gives a toast that turns into a speech about herself way. Just show up, be present, sit in the chairs, smile at the right moments, act like my life mattered for a few hours. They RSVP'd, but their hearts were somewhere else. Specifically, their hearts were at Heather's baby shower, which she decided to schedule on the same day as my wedding reception. And when I say the same day, I do not mean earlier that morning in another town. I mean the same time in the same city 10 blocks away. Her reasoning was that it was just a brunch thing, and it would be done before my dinner really started, so I should chill. Because nothing says relax, it's your big day, like watching your family double book themselves between mimosa hour and your vows. Maya tried to stay positive. She told me maybe it was just bad timing, and that she was sure they would make it work. I nodded, but I knew my family. They were not a make-it-work family. They were a make-Nate work around Heather family. 2 weeks before the wedding, my mother texted me. She said they were so proud of me, and then immediately asked if I knew what kind of cupcakes Heather was having yet because maybe I could stop by for one before my ceremony. I stared at that message for a full minute, wondering if it was satire. There was no mention of my wedding menu, no offer to help set up, no question about whether I was nervous or excited, just cupcakes, and a casual suggestion that I drop into my sister's baby shower like a side quest on my way to my literal marriage. I did not reply. I just showed Maya. She laughed so hard she almost cried, but I didn't laugh because deep down, I already knew how it was going to go, and it was not going to go in my favor. On the wedding day, you would think the biggest thing on my mind would have been my vows, or whether I would cry when Maya walked down the aisle. For the record, I absolutely did. Full, ugly cry. No dignity. But before that, as I stood in front of the mirror, tying and retying my tie, all I could think about was how many seats on my side would be empty. The ceremony was small by choice. Maya and I wanted it personal, not something designed to go viral on Pinterest. 30 guests total. Her family flew in from Colorado a dozen strong, all polite, warm, and genuinely excited. Her father cried when she hugged him. Her mother kept sneaking photos with her iPad like a proud grandmother in training. Even her cousin with adult braces brought a thoughtful gift. Meanwhile, I was mentally taking attendance like I was running inventory. Mom and Dad were not there yet. Heather was still at brunch. Kyle had not replied since his message the night before, where he had said he could not wait for the open bar. Uncle Greg had RSVP'd yes. He actually showed up in a Hawaiian shirt and then left right after the ceremony because he had to take his dog to therapy. That is not a euphemism. The dog has actual sessions. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Maya looked like she had stepped out of a dream I never thought I deserved. We said our vows under an arch her brother built. The sun hit the windows just right. For a few moments, it did not matter who wasn't there. Then came the reception. The room was split into two sides with long tables on either side of the dance floor. Maya's side was full. It buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, conversations, hugs, and warmth. One of her aunts brought a karaoke machine without asking, and somehow no one even minded. My side had 6 people. 2 were my college friends who barely knew anyone else. One was my old neighbor Doris, who brought a book because, as she put it, receptions could be long. The other 3 were co-workers who mostly wanted cake and wanted to see if Maya's sister was single. I stood in the middle of that room and looked around, trying to act like it did not matter. But it mattered. It mattered because I had 32 years of my family saying they would be there for me echoing in my head. And when the music started, all I heard from my side of the floor was silence. The DJ played September by Earth, Wind & Fire. That was my pick. The dance floor filled up on Maya's side. Her cousin did the worm. Her grandmother did the robot. Someone formed a conga line. And my mother was at Heather's baby shower posting photos of tiny shoes and an avocado-shaped cake with the caption, "The real celebration today, 2 hearts, baby girl coming soon." No tag, no mention, not even a congratulations to my son, just that. I stood behind the DJ booth pretending to check the playlist while scrolling through her feed. Each photo landed harder than the last. Heather posing with balloons that said, "Oh baby." Heather holding a fake champagne glass. Heather opening a gift labeled Poop Explosion Survival Kit while my mother laughed like it was the comedy event of the year. I did not even realize I was gripping my phone until Maya slid beside me and touched my hand. She told me quietly that they would regret it one day. I did not answer, not because I disagreed, but because my phone buzzed right then again, and again. At first I thought maybe someone had finally realized they had missed something important. Maybe one of them was finally going to say they were on their way. But no, it was Dad. 12 missed calls, then 13, then 18. He was spamming me like a telemarketer under a full moon. By the time I looked down again, the screen said 51 missed calls and one message with one word: urgent. And that was the exact moment the bass dropped in the room, the lights dimmed, and the reception that should have been my moment collided with whatever fresh chaos my family had created. I put my phone on silent. I was done cleaning up their messes in a tux. I did not look at the message again for a while. I pocketed the phone, took a deep breath, and turned back toward the dance floor, like I had not just been hit by a mental brick. My wedding reception was still happening, even if it barely felt like mine. And I was not going to let a text from my father derail it. Or at least, that was what I told myself. Maya and I had planned that night for months. She had designed the place cards herself. The playlist was filled with our songs, and I mean our real songs, not romantic movie soundtrack songs, but the ridiculous tracks we had laughed at in the car. Take on Me, Stacy's Mom, that one Bon Iver song that makes you cry even when you do not know why. And yet, through all of it, I could feel that itch in my chest, that creeping awareness you get when a mess is about to spill everywhere, and somehow your name is already written on the mop. Because if there was one thing I knew about my family, It was that they did not call 51 times for a real emergency. They called that much when the Wi-Fi stopped working, or Heather lost her Instagram password, or Dad needed help finding the HDMI port on his smart TV again. I waited until after the toast to look at the message. It said, "Urgent, call me now." That was it. Not congratulations, not "we are so sorry," not even a basic "are you okay?" Just "urgent, call me now." I handed my phone to Maya while we stood near the edge of the dance floor. I told her that if they called again, she should just toss the phone into the cake. She did not laugh. She kissed my cheek and said we did not owe them anything. She was right, but part of me still wondered if it was serious. What if someone had passed out after too many baby-themed mocktails? What if the avocado cake had peanuts in it? So during dessert, which only half the guests had even stayed for, I stepped outside just to clear my head. That was when I called my father back. The phone rang once, then clicked. He answered with irritation, not concern, asking where I had been and saying it was about time. I blinked. Where had I been? I was at my wedding reception. Where did he think I had been? He said I should have answered earlier. I told him I had been getting married, the thing he had RSVP'd to and then ignored. There was a pause, the kind that told me he was not even going to bother apologizing. Instead, he pivoted hard and told me Heather was in labor. I stood still. He said she had gone into early labor during the baby shower and that they were at the hospital now. He said Maya was not picking up either and that I needed to come. I looked at my watch. It was 8:42 p.m. I asked him if he was really calling me from the hospital where he had taken my entire family on my wedding night to tell me I needed to come to Heather's delivery. His voice went flat. He said Heather was asking for me. I exhaled like I had been holding my breath all day. Heather had not shown up. She had not texted. She had not acknowledged the wedding. And now she wanted me to leave it. He said she was scared. I told him I had been scared too. Walking into that room and seeing my side of the hall look like a ghost town. He snapped that I was being dramatic. Something in me went calm. I told him I was not being dramatic. I was being honest. Then I asked him to put Mom on the phone. There was a shuffle, and then my mother's voice came through tight and weepy. She called me honey and said they were so sorry about the timing, but Heather was their baby, and I knew how early labor could go. She said Heather had asked for me. I told her I had asked for her. I had asked both of them to be there, just once to show up for me, and they had not. They had the location, they had the date. Instead, they went to a brunch with diapers and duck-themed cupcakes. My mother said Heather was giving them a granddaughter. I told her I was giving them a daughter-in-law. A family, a moment. Silence followed. I could hear beeping in the background, someone wheeling a cart, a nurse talking gently. It felt like I was intruding on something intimate, but it was not mine. It was never mine. My mother eventually said I was still welcome to come, and that Heather would love to see me. I stared across the parking lot at the venue lights flickering, like they were trying to stay cheerful for me. I said, I bet she would. Right after she erased my wedding date from her phone and replaced it with a baby shower invite. Mom tried to stop me, but I told her I was not coming. She told me not to be like this. I told her I was being like this because for once I was choosing myself. Then I hung up. After the call, I just stood outside the venue for a moment, tie loosened, staring at the sky as if it had anything helpful to say. It did not. But it was quiet, and after that phone call, quiet was the only thing keeping my head from exploding. When I went back inside, Maya looked up immediately. Her eyes moved over my face, searching, reading me the way she always did. I did not say anything. I just shook my head. She nodded once. That was all we needed. Our wedding planner, bless her exhausted soul, had dimmed the lights, lit the candles, and served dessert like it was still a full reception. Even though half the seats were empty and the dance floor looked like a wedding throwback from another era. There was a cupcake tower. Maya had made it herself. No bakery, no fondant, just actual flavor and care. Chocolate raspberry lemon poppy seed, and one rogue peanut butter banana because she is unhinged like that. She handed me one and told me to eat it or she would feed it to me aggressively. I smiled, even if I did not mean it all the way. I sat beside her and told her I had said I was not going. She paused and asked if I was sure. I looked around the room. Somehow, it felt smaller now, less hollow, because the people who were there mattered. My best friend Jared had dragged himself from Denver for us. Maya's cousin Zoe was telling inappropriate jokes at table 3. Maya's mother was already planning a post-reception brunch as if she were trying to compensate for my family's collective emotional bankruptcy. I told Maya I was done chasing them. She reached for my hand and held it like it was the only thing tethering her to the earth. Then she said we should dance, just us. So we did. We danced alone on the floor, surrounded by flickering candles and plates that had not been touched on my side. It should have felt tragic. It did not. It felt clean, peaceful, free. The next morning, while we packed up gift bags and leftover cupcakes, I got a text from Kyle. It was the first message from him in 2 weeks. He said Heather had the baby, everyone was freaking out, and asked where I had been. No congratulations, no sorry I missed the wedding. Just that, as if I had skipped a potluck instead of attending my own marriage. I stared at the screen, then flipped my phone upside down and slid it under a napkin. Later that day, Mom sent me a voice message. I did not open it. Then came Dad's text. He said I should have been there. He said Heather had asked for me. He said I had really let her down. I did not know how to respond. Actually, I did know, but every version in my head included the word hypocrisy and language not suitable for a wedding thank you card. Instead, I did something I had not done in years. I blocked them. Not forever. I was not trying to turn it into a performance, but for the first time, I gave myself permission to turn down the volume on people who had spent years treating me like background noise until they needed something. I turned back to Maya, who was currently arguing with a hotel concierge about whether we could take the rest of the centerpieces home. She said they were fake peonies and no one was going to miss them. I wrapped my arms around her from behind and told her she was terrifying. She grinned and said she was my terrifying, and that was the only family I needed that day. We were barely 24 hours into being married when the family group chat lit up like the 4th of July, and apparently, I was the villain of the fireworks show. First came the baby photos. Heather smiling from her hospital bed, clutching a 6-pound wrinkly potato in a pink hat. Then came the comments. She was perfect, a new little angel in the family. Look at those cheeks. Everyone was so proud of Heather, hearts everywhere. Then came one from Mom. She said Heather had been so brave, no epidural, just strength and love, red heart. It would have been a lovely sentiment if the message directly before it had not been from Maya, who had finally snapped. Maya wrote that, meanwhile, Heather's brother had gotten married to the love of his life in a room that looked like the DMV waiting area. Just strength and neglect. Red heart. I nearly choked on my cereal. It was 8:07 a.m., and I had no idea Maya had even unmuted the family group chat, let alone loaded a sarcastic missile into it. Kyle responded that it was not the time. Maya replied instantly, asking when the time was. Between the gender reveal and the baby's first word, or should we wait until they all forgot our anniversary too? Heather finally chimed in and asked if we seriously thought this was about us. I did not reply. Not yet. I was curious to see how deep they would dig themselves. Dad jumped in and asked if we could please not ruin the moment with drama. Mom added that this was never about choosing sides and that they loved all their children equally. Ah, yes, the classic phrase spoken exclusively by parents who definitely and provably do not. Maya turned to me and asked me to say something, so I did. I wrote to Mom and Dad that if they loved us all equally, they should explain why 27 people were at Heather's shower and 6 were at our reception. No one replied. So I followed up and told them not to say it was a scheduling issue. They had known the date 6 months ago. They had picked it. They had RSVP'd to it. Still, nothing. It was like texting into a void made of guilty silence and store-bought baby balloons. Then Heather, because of course it had to be Heather, sent that she was sorry I felt unsupported. I blinked at the screen. Maya read it over my shoulder and groaned. asking if Heather had taken a seminar in passive-aggressive gaslighting. So I replied that it was not a feeling. It was a head count, a chair count, a missing toast, and 51 missed calls that were not congratulations. Then I muted the thread. We sat there for a second in the weird kind of quiet that feels like the air has gotten heavier. Maya looked at me and asked if I was okay. I nodded and realized that I actually was. I think I was. She held up her coffee mug and toasted to us, the ones who showed up for each other. I clinked my mug against hers and said, "To us." 2 hours later, a package showed up at our door. There was no return address, but I knew. Inside was a baby shower favor bag with a note that said, "Since you missed it, thought you'd still want one. Love, Heather." The bag included a pink candle, a tiny bottle of hand lotion, and a cookie shaped like a rattle that said, "It's a girl." Maya stared at it, then looked at me and asked if she would go to the underworld if she ate the cookie out of spite. I told her only if she posted it on Instagram. So she took a bite on camera with the caption, "When you're so uninvited to your own family that you get party favors in the mail. 2 hearts. Not bitter, just married." It got 212 likes, mostly from her side. Later that night, I got a call from Grandma Jean. Not my mother's mother, my father's mother. Grandma Jean was the only family member who had not been able to travel because of her hip surgery. She called to say she was proud of me, that she had seen the photos online, that Maya looked like a Disney princess who could win a bar fight, and that she had printed one of the pictures and put it on her mantle. She said she had raised my father better, but you know men. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it reminded me that not every branch on the family tree had dry rot. She paused, then told me that if they tried to guilt me, I should let them sit in it. That baby was going to be showered with love for the rest of her life, she said. But what Maya and I had done the day before was real. I thanked her. Then she whispered that I should not tell anyone she had said this, but Maya's cupcakes completely outshined Heather's cake. Naturally, my family tried to apologize the only way modern families know how, with a Facebook post. 3 days after the wedding, I woke up to a tag notification from my mother. I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. Maya sat up next to me and muttered that she hoped it was not a gender reveal recap slideshow. It was worse. It was a photo collage of Heather holding her newborn alongside a photo of me and Maya at the altar, cropped so tightly that my head was almost missing. The caption said, "What a weekend. Our family was doubly blessed. A beautiful new marriage and a precious new life. Congrats to our amazing kids. Love multiplies. 2 hearts." Proud parents. Wedding weekend. Double joy, double joy. I read that line 5 times, hoping it would turn into satire if I stared long enough. I showed Maya. She did not speak. She just did that slow blink that says, "Do I have to be the one to handle the internet, or will you?" The post had 50 likes. 22 were from Heather's friends. 4 were from people I did not even know. One was from a distant cousin who commented, "Wait, Nate got married this weekend?" Cue the circus music. And if that was not enough, the comments under the post were even worse. "Beautiful couple. Congratulations, Heather. Such a special time for your family. Baby girl is going to have the best auntie." Auntie. No one even mentioned Maya, the bride, the literal reason I now owned a rice cooker, 12 throw pillows, and a dozen monogrammed bath towels. The only person who tagged me in a meaningful way was Grandma Jean. She wrote that she was proud of me, and that my side of the hall may have been empty, but my heart was not. Blue heart. That one made Maya tear up. She turned to me and whispered that the post made her feel like a prop. I told her instantly that she was not. She said she knew, but she felt like she had been edited into someone else's celebration. She pulled the covers over her head and said it was like they were trying to turn our wedding into a baby shower after party. That line stayed with me because it was not just how she felt, it was how I had felt growing up, forgotten, cropped, tacked onto moments that were never really mine. I remembered a birthday when I turned 9. Heather threw a tantrum because I got a Game Boy and she did not. So my parents made me let her open my gift for the photo. I am literally in the background of my own birthday picture, blurry, while she smiles, holding a gift she did not buy, did not want, and did not care about. Some things do not change. I did not reply to the Facebook post. I did not like it. I did not even text them about it. I just logged off and spent the morning organizing our wedding gifts, which were almost exclusively from Maya's people, except for one. My parents had sent us a box labeled Honeymoon Starter Kit. Inside was a $25 Olive Garden gift card, a wedding card addressed to Nathan and Molly, and a single wine glass with bride written on it in glitter. No groom glass. No note, just vibes. Maya held it up and said, "So Molly, huh?" I told her Molly was going to be thrilled. We laughed, but not in the good way. It was the kind of laugh that exists only because the alternative is screaming into a throw pillow. Later that evening, Maya and I went out for drinks with her cousin Zoe and Zoe's wife Lauren, two women who had known us for years and had somehow managed to show up to the wedding without overlapping it with a prenatal spa day. Zoe said she had seen the Facebook post. I groaned and said I was still recovering from the secondhand cringe. Lauren raised her eyebrows at double joy and called it more like discount loyalty points. Maya muttered into her drink that it was more like buy one, get one betrayal. They both burst out laughing. For the first time in days, so did I. Because here's the thing, when you grow up thinking family means obligation, it is easy to forget that family can also mean choice. We did not have Heather's crowd. We did not have applause from my side. We did not have a baby centerpiece or a room full of relatives crying over us. But we had each other. We had a few ride-or-die weirdos with sarcasm snacks and backup wine. Honestly, that was enough. A week after the wedding, Maya and I were back in real life, if real life meant unboxing waffle makers and writing 36 thank you cards. We had not spoken to my parents since the Facebook fiasco. Then I got a text from Dad. "Family dinner Sunday. Be there." No question mark. No, would love to see you. Just a flat command, like he was calling a staff meeting and I was expected to bring the quarterly updates and mashed potatoes. Maya glanced at the message and told me that if I wanted to go, she would come with me, but only if she could wear something intimidating and say interesting after every sentence my mother said. That almost made it worth it. But no, I did not want Maya anywhere near that dinner. I told her I would handle it. So Sunday evening, I drove over to my parents' house, the same house I had grown up in, the one with Heather's honor roll certificate still hanging in the hallway, and exactly 0 pictures of me past age 15. I knocked, even though I knew I did not have to. Mom opened the door like she had been waiting all day. She greeted me softly, all sugar and warmth. I stepped inside. The dining table was set like it was Thanksgiving. Fancy plates, candles, even cloth napkins folded into swans. They were trying, but it felt like a play. Heather was already at the table with the baby in her arms, looking serene and smug. Kyle sat beside her, probably regretting every life decision that had led him to parenthood. Dad stood at the head of the table and said he was glad I came. I sat down. For a few minutes, we pretended to be normal. Chicken, potatoes, baby burps. Then, Dad cleared his throat and said they wanted to talk. Here we go. Mom folded her hands and said they knew I had been hurt by how things went. I corrected her. I said I had been hurt by how they had acted. She blinked and said it was never their intention to hurt me. I nodded slowly and told her that something else that had not been their intention was showing up. Heather rolled her eyes and asked if we were still doing this. I told her yes, we were still doing this, because I still woke up thinking about that empty room. I still thought about what it felt like to walk into the most important day of my life and realize my family had chosen cupcakes and a diaper cake instead. Kyle muttered something like drama, but I did not care. I looked at my parents and told them they could have rescheduled the baby shower. They could have shown up, even if it was only for the ceremony. But they did not. Then they had the audacity to act like Maya and I were the problem for being upset. Dad leaned forward and said they were there now, so couldn't we move forward? I told him we could, but first they had to understand something. I pulled a folded piece of paper from my jacket. Maya had encouraged me to write it before I went. It was the wedding speech I never gave, the one I had scrapped the night before the wedding because I thought it would be too emotional, too personal. I unfolded it and read it. When I was a kid, I used to think love meant showing up, sitting in the stands at a baseball game, coming to the science fair even if my volcano did not erupt, celebrating birthdays without conditions or corrections. I did not get a lot of that growing up, but somehow I never stopped hoping. Then I met Maya. For the first time, someone showed up, not out of obligation, but by choice. She showed up for my worst days, my quiet victories, my frozen pizza dinners, and my long rants about how much a job could wear me down. On our wedding day, she stood beside me, even when the other side of the room was nearly empty. Because love does not just say, "I am proud of you." Love says, "I am here." So this speech is not just for the guests who came, it is for the ones who stayed, and for the one who never left. When I looked up, the room was silent. Heather was scrolling through her phone, Mom was dabbing her eyes. Dad just stared. I folded the paper again and told them I had written that for our wedding, but I never got to read it because I was too busy fielding calls from the maternity ward. Then I stood up. I told them dinner was great and thanked them, but said this did not fix anything. Then I walked out. 2 days after that dinner, I got a text from Heather. She asked if I was seriously acting like they had ruined my entire life over one missed event. I did not reply. She followed up by saying I was a grown man crying over chairs and that I needed to get over it. Still, I did not reply. A few hours later, Maya came home from work with a giant grin and a paper envelope. She asked me to guess who had sent us an actual letter. It was from Grandma Jean. Inside was a card. It said our wedding had been beautiful, that the pictures did not lie, and that love had been present even if some people were not. Then there was a postscript saying she had left a little something inside. Tucked behind the card was a check for $5,000, written out to Nathan and Maya for the future they would build. Not the one others skipped. No strings, just support. We cried a little, laughed a lot, and then booked our honeymoon somewhere far sunny and wonderfully Wi-Fi free. Before we left, we got one more notification. It was an invite to Heather's welcome baby brunch. Maya looked at it, rolled her eyes, and tapped decline. She smirked and asked if it was too soon. I kissed her forehead and told her it was too late.